Hello and welcome to the Rock Your Voice podcast. Vocal coaching tips that will transform your voice, interviews that will inspire, industry guidance, and so much more. Without further ado, let's get on with the show. Today on the Rock Your Voice podcast, I'm joined by Aaron, who is the founder of Vocal Mist. Now, if you've been training with me before, or if you've ever struggled with your voice, you may have heard of the Vocal Mist Nebulizer and you may have experienced its amazing benefits. This is not an endorsement episode. This is legit a genuine reason for me to have a conversation with a guy who's created something that I personally think really has helped quite a lot of my clients. So I wanted to chat with him, dig into the science behind it, and share with you the difference, because this is a question I get asked a lot, between steam, hydration, and nebulizers, and what these different effects have on the voice. So hopefully this will inform and educate, as well as help you make some decisions as how best to care for your voice. Thank you so much for joining me and taking the time to chat. I'm really excited because you are the creator of the Vocal Mist Nebulizer, which I think is really, really cool. And I have a lot of clients that use it, and I have a lot of people that are asking me all about these things and what they should be getting and looking for and everything. But I wanted to kind of dig into a bit about you, your journey, how you got to where you are, how you created this magical thing, and why. So I guess starting at the beginning, what's your sort of background with music and singing and voice? What led you to start this journey?
Sure. So the quick and dirty of it is that I grew up in a small town in Texas and got involved in music, doing school and bands and all that sort of stuff. My earliest musical experience was because my town was very Czech and German heritage heavy. I grew up playing in a polka band with several family members. Yeah, that's how I made my gas money as a teen.
Awesome.
And then ended up going to college at University of North Texas, studying voice there. I did my degree in vocal jazz.
Cool.
And then moved out to Los Angeles shortly after graduation.
Right.
Out in LA, I've worked as a singer primarily for the last 10 years. I've worked as a session singer. I've done, backgrounds on some movies and some commercials.
Awesome.
And worked a lot with top 40 bands.
Cool.
I direct a adult a cappella choir out in Los Angeles, like a 25-person choir. So work as a director, kind of educator realm.
Nice.
And I tour with a vocal jazz group called Impact that does dates across the US and sometimes international. To where I sing, it's a all-male group, and I sing soprano in that group, which is kind of fun.
There you go.
Yeah, cheers to that.
So you're based out in LA now. Is that where home is for you?
Been in Los Angeles 10 years.
Nice.
So me and my wife lived out here in a suburb of LA, and we had a baby girl 2 weeks ago.
Yes, you were saying congratulations. How is parenthood treating you so far?
It's going all right. I am drinking this Red Bull as we speak. Sleep is fine. We're doing fine. She's super cute. Everything's going well. She's healthy. But yeah, that's where I'm kind of situated now. Is I still work as a singer, as a consistent thing. But I started Vocal Mist primarily started it as an experiment for myself 6-7 years ago, and then it kind of evolved into making these devices, selling them to friends, and then starting a business, starting a brand, making a whole thing. And now Vocal Mist is sold somewhere close to, I want to say we're up to 20,000, 25,000.
That's wild.
Singers and professional voice users and that sort of thing worldwide.
That's amazing. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. It's been quite a journey, and it's fun, and it's nice to be able to tie in several of my interests.
Yeah, totally. And also, I guess the sort of giving back and the helping other singers too, because it is a really helpful piece of equipment for a singer to have, for sure.
Yeah, it's nice to add to the toolkit.
Absolutely.
There's singing being one of those disciplines where there's not a ton of visual ways to judge what's right or wrong. So singing is kind of the culture of singing is kind of this aggregate of a couple hundred years at least of people just kind of creating metaphors, creating styles and tricks, and there's a lot of smoke and mirrors in much of it in a helpful way, because that's what we need dealing with the voice. But it's hard to find tools that are like mechanically going to help your instrument. And so happy that Vocal Mist can serve in that function.
I absolutely love that. I always get jealous of guitarists with all of their pedals and all their toys and things that they get to play with and stuff, and it's like singers don't get to have anything.
Yeah. Worst comes to worst, the guitarist can be like, "Oh, I broke a string."
Yeah, right.
Singers, it's like, "Oh, sorry, I'm just bad at what I do." You know.
That's amazing. So did you like from a voice science perspective, how did you kind of get to the point where you're like, this works, I know how this works, this is going to help people? How did that sort of evolve from creating something for yourself?
You know, I think I had been familiar with the practice of steaming.
Yes.
Of like using steam, whether it's a shower or whether it's a hot bowl and a towel over your head. I had been used to doing that. But then as I started to travel more and I started to do more fly dates, I was trying to travel with one of these big Vicks steamers in my bag. And I think I just kind of got a little annoyed, the lack of mobility with it, with the heat up time that was required. Like it seemed like I was like, there's got to be a better way. Yeah. So me just kind of investigating privately, I was like, okay, the important thing is to get water to the voice. The important thing is to get hydration to the voice. Is there a way to do that outside of steam? It's like, yeah, you can mechanically get it there. It's just about like looking at different kind of atomizing strategies.
Right.
Then it was one of those things where it's like I had my own train of thought going. How do we get hydration to the voice differently? What kind of tech is around this? And it led me to the path of nebulizers.
Yeah.
Which had already kind of undergone a kind of creative re-evolution in the past several years because battery technology has gotten better.
Right.
So a lot of asthmatics and some people using like for medical purposes have these large at-home nebulizers, but the ability to have just a battery-powered USB rechargeable version it's ultrasonic is the term. So it's just the way it mechanically like uses vibration to create mist.
Super cool.
That was kind of a newer thing. So in my deep dive, trying to look at different ways of getting hydration to the voice, I found that there was already a body of research being done currently.
Right.
Like within a year or two of me looking into it, really recent research done with singers specifically. So nebulizers with a special type of saline, isotonic saline for singers, and seeing how it improved kind of markers of vocal quality and vocal health.
Maybe right now is a good time to sort of talk about exactly what it is and what it does before we kind of dig into how it works and all of that kind of stuff. So, I mean, one of the biggest questions I get is like, should I be using a steamer? Should I be inhaling steam? Like, what's the difference between a nebulizer and all the different things? People are always asking me those kind of questions, and my immediate go-to is always the Vocal Mist, because what I'm hearing from feedback from everyone that's using it is that it gets the best results. So can you kind of summarize the different kind of approaches, like you said, with the bowl and the towel and the old school steam versus a steam room versus a nebulizer? What's the difference?
Sure. All right. So we're going to get in like just the tiny bit of science, and we're going to get the tiny bit of vocal health. And
Love it.
Makes sense, right? So the first thing is that when you have steam, so number one, you're physically heating up water. Water molecules are evaporating. They leave everything behind, and they are warm. So you're introducing something into your system that's quite warm, and it's pure water. When you're breathing in steam, it is pure water. It's leaving everything behind. And that's why a lot of steamers, eventually that you have to clean out the deposits they leave behind, because there's minerals in water, typically. Yeah. And so with steam, like just chemistry-wise, you're dealing with pure water. If you atomize a liquid in a mechanical way, meaning you use something that's not heat to create a mist, then the perk of that is that you're able to do it at room temperature. So you're not introducing something that's like drastically hotter than your body. And also you're able to aerosolize everything that's in that liquid. So for the sake of Vocal Mist, for example, Vocal Mist and I'll just do the quick explanation. Vocal Mist is a small handheld device with a liquid chamber on it. And we use a type of saline that Vocal Mist sells called hydration formula. That's our name for it, just to make it clear.
It's very obvious, does what it says on the box.
And what it does is it takes this liquid and it basically shakes the liquid really, really fast through a membrane.
Cool.
so that it aerosolizes it, turns it into a mist, and you're able to breathe the mist and it hydrates your voice. Vocal mist in itself, the fact that it's able to do it to aerosolize this mist is only helpful because we're not using pure water. If you were using pure water, you could do steam.
Right.
The reason for not using pure water is that our bodies don't utilize water in its pure form.
Right.
So that's why some of us are familiar with, like listeners might be familiar with distilled water or tap water or salt water, the types of things that are naturally in water, your body uses basically as a way to move that water around.
Okay.
So when you hear about water that has electrolytes in it,
Right.
electrolytes are basically like suspended ions in the water,
Right.
and those ions are able to be used to move the water throughout your cells, throughout your cell membranes.
Okay.
So that's why if you drink distilled water all day, every day, you'll actually become really dehydrated because you're going to deplete your body of electrolytes. Your body's not going to be able to replenish. Your body's not able to use the water.
Right.
It doesn't have any salt in it.
Gotcha.
Salt, sodium chloride, is the main electrolyte used. There's also things like potassium and magnesium, but for the most part, sodium chloride is the main salt used in how your body moves water around. Awesome. It's just generic table salt.
Okay.
And what we call saline, at least in the US, saline is kind of a catch-all term for any type of salt water. So it can be salt water that has a lot of salt or a little bit of salt or whatever. But the medical version of saline, typically used for fluid replacement, is called isotonic saline or normal saline. It's both terms. This type of saline has a very exact proportion of sodium chloride in it. It has exactly 0.9% sodium chloride. Okay. So all it is it's water and salt, but it's an exact proportion because it's the proportion that your body naturally tries to maintain on its own.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so when you use saline, when you breathe in saline, basically your body's able to use it immediately and a lot more effectively than water alone.
Okay.
It's the same reason that if you go to the hospital, if you were dehydrated and you needed to get fluids put in your system, they don't just make you drink water. They hook you up to an IV bag of saline. Right. It's the exact same stuff. They're hooking you up to a bag of isotonic saline, 0.9%. We're just using it in a way that you can breathe in so that your voice and throat can absorb it.
Amazing. And that's where people sometimes get really confused. Some especially if you're kind of new to singing. A lot of people will be drinking water while they're singing, thinking they're hydrating, and by that point you're way past the point of being able to hydrate to sing. So obviously when you swallow water, if it went straight to your vocal cords, you'd be coughing and spluttering and choking and things. Hence
yeah, it's
the
a whole different set of pipes.
Exactly. This is getting exactly what we need to the cords at the perfect absorption rate for the body then, if I'm understanding correctly.
That's the goal. And one hard thing about the voice is that for most of our body, there's blood vessels connected to everything. And so when a part of our body gets dehydrated or it needs nutrients or water or blood, oxygen, then that blood supply is readily providing all of those things. Right. But our vocal folds themselves, even though they do have a muscle in the core of that fold, and that muscle has some blood vessels, the bulk of our vocal fold, the outer layers, the part that's actually doing all the work and vibrating, doesn't have any blood vessels. Right. It's very like gelatinous. And so the only way that it gets moisture is through a very slow kind of diffusion from the inside outwards, which works great for us. And if you're well hydrated, your voice is going to, that's one of the best ways to keep your voice in shape, but it's a slower process. Yes. So chugging water right before you sing isn't going to do you any, you're too late. You're far too late at the point.
Exactly. And I feel so bad for singers, especially if we're in a lesson or something and they're just, you can hear their voice is dehydrated and tired and they're chugging the water and it's like, oh, I wish I'd explained this to you before or that you knew this before, because it's so important to do that pre-hydration stuff as well of course as like the vocal mist kind of approach too. And then when you take into factors, of course, with the higher level singers, where we're talking performers and touring and all of the airplanes and different changes in climate, environment, all of that kind of stuff, I think steam is a godsend. I live in Calgary, Alberta in Canada, and it's notoriously dry. Singers
hate it here when they're traveling through, unless you're adjusted to it here. If you're traveling here for a show, it's wild. Some of the artists that I work with, when they're in town here, it's like literally we have to completely create an entire schedule and preparation and everything that's different for them being in this area. So
one of the interesting things about this, so exactly how you mentioned, like different areas, it's a huge difference. Every time I go and sing in Florida, I feel like $1,000,000.
Right.
It's so humid there. It's so nice. The research that's been done comparing steam to nebulizing saline, which is what the vocal mist is, the research there basically comes up with a couple of conclusions. Conclusions are, number one, the steam feels good.
right.
And the nebulizing feels good. They both feel good. People self-report that something is going well for them. But when we actually take pressure sensing devices and put them in the mouth or in the throat or in the sinuses, and we measure how much air pressure is changing as somebody is singing or talking, the steam does not have any effect on that pressure.
Wild.
The nebulizing saline drops that pressure for a time. So what that means, and what the kind of extrapolation is that the steam feels good not because of the water, but it's feeling good because of the warmth. And the warmth helps expand your blood vessels, and it's increasing blood flow in general. So it's more the warmth function that's helping your blood flow, whereas the saline is actually adding directly to your vocal folds, which helps them vibrate with less pressure.
Very cool. That's so awesome. So with all this,
it's fun.
I know. I love that you say it's fun, because so many people start to glaze over when I start going off on voice science and voice health stuff, and it's like, this is what's gonna make you actually a better singer when you start understanding these things. So,
and it's all these little small changes you make, like
totally,
whether it's vocal technique or tools or routines.
Yes. You don't have to be a voice science nerd or get your degree in voice science to be able to be a good singer at all. So.
Yeah, you just pick up habits.
Yeah, totally. So like from an entrepreneurial perspective, like good on you. Like I have to apologize. Harrison is like a regular feature on the podcast.
Oh, you're fine. Hi, Harrison. No,
just will be barking in the background from time to time. But yeah, from an entrepreneurial perspective, was it kind of scary to be like, okay, I'm going to start investing in creating a product that is, this has gone from my thing to help my voice to like, now I'm going to create a business and create an entire product that I'm going to put out there.
Yeah, no, it definitely was. The scary part was when I started trying to do this, I was able to work one-on-one with a person at a company. Amazing. That basically helped me do small batches.
Oh, cool.
Which was great. I was doing like 30 units at a time,
Nice.
60 units at a time. Still a fair amount of money to put forward for me being like, I'm a singer in LA trying, I was in LA for like 2 or 3 years at that point. That was perfect. But then at some point, they disappeared.
Oh, no.
They stopped responding to emails. And I reached out to the company like, hey, can I continue these orders? And I realized that they had been kind of helping me as a way to make a side buck on their own. And they were no longer at the company. And the company said, it's fine. You can continue to order with us. But if you want to put in an order, you can't do 30 at a time. You have to do 500 at a time, 1,000 at a time. And I was like, oh, so I knew that there was potential there. But at the same time, me like biting that bullet saying, oh, I'm going to spend multiple tens of thousands of dollars just to try this thing. That took a bit of self-motivating for sure.
Yes. Well, that's amazing. And you did it. You took that leap right then and there. Was that the point when everything kind of changed for you?
I talked with some people and got some perspective, but that's the kind of thing, if it's one thing to just say to believe in yourself, and everybody can have like I do believe in positive self-talk and optimism and yada yada, and that's great. But I think it's more important to like really think through your idea. And if you believe the idea, if you believe something should work, and you think through all the mechanisms of it and it should work, then it doesn't really matter how you personally feel about it.
Right.
You have to decide based on the merit of that idea.
Absolutely. It's almost like your science brain stepped in and was like, here we go. Let's be logical and let's make it happen. I love that.
Yeah, thankfully. And as for where that first order that was super scary, ordered 500 units, and like had a manufacturer make 500. Now 2 or 3 times a year, I order 5,000 units at a time. So it's a whole different, it's wild, and it is another type of fun.
That is so cool. That is really, really cool. So yeah, I'm so glad we got to talk. And the reason that we connected is also because you have the new Facebook group that's tied to the Vocal Mist. And I think this is so great, because this is why I really wanted to reach out to you, because you really showed in creating this forum that it comes across as very genuine. It's not salesy. It's all about information, actually, and building your community and discussing voice health in general. It's not just like use a voice mist for the solution for absolutely everything. No, it really is a genuine interactive discussion all about voice health, and different people are interacting from all over the world and talking about their situations and stuff. So I really wanted to reach out, because it seems like you do genuinely care about people's voice health and about informing and educating people, which I think is really, really cool. Are there any kind of stories that stick out to you of people that you've helped, or anything that you're like super proud of in what you do, that's kind of your motivator to keep you doing this, as opposed to being like, I did something, it worked, whatever?
I think it's there's been a few like really fun moments of, just on like a personal, like, oh, this is hilarious. As a personal moment, there's been fun moments where I go sing at a conference. And I'm talking with the conference people, and Vocal Mist comes up independently,
right,
as a conversation topic, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's me and my wife running this entire thing.
Funny story.
so things like that happen, and those always feel good on a personal level.
That's amazing.
But at the same time, there's like, we've met. While Vocal Mist isn't sold as like a medical thing, it's not going to treat you, it's not going to cure you, it's not even going to like save your voice. It's going to help. That's the goal here. And we try really hard not to like over promote or like give false promises.
Right. Yeah.
The vibe is that this is just another tool in your toolkit.
Yeah.
But there's been people that have been through medical scenarios. I'm not going to say this right, but it's like Sjogren's disease. I'm not going to be able to pronounce it correctly, but it's a disease where basically your mouth stops producing saliva.
Oh my gosh.
Very easily. And so you just suffer with like perpetual dry mouth and dry sinuses, and your voice is always beat up. And there's been singers that we've met. We've been at conferences with an exhibit booth, and people have come up and been like, hey, just letting you know, like, I was a singer and I had to stop singing because of this condition. Yeah. And now I'm able to do what I love again. And that was just like, punch in the gut.
Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing. I love this so much. This is so good. So, okay. So what, aside from Vocal Mist, is there anything that is like in your top arsenal for voice health that you would recommend to people? What would you say on top of that would be your second go-to that people can use?
Second go-to would be mindfulness.
Yes, I love that you kind of laugh about that, but I swear that 99% of what I teach as a voice coach is all up here.
Yeah, like if I think actually like Vocal Mist is probably like third on my list. I mean, Vocal Mist is great, but the kind of catch-all of saying good vocal technique, but really just it's like the awareness to get your body to make the sounds you want to make without working super hard for them.
Yes.
And experimenting with your voice, and then the kind of discipline of doing something often enough to where your body can adapt to what you need it to do.
Yes, I love that.
So it's like if you have like those two things, and that's the 90, like you said, that's like the 95%. And then the other 5% is like building up your toolkit, building relationships, increasing your skill set, those sorts of things. Other like actual tools and like products that I like, there's a couple of, well, I'll say this way. There's a couple of singing focused products out there, like singing straws. Yeah. We're friends with the people that make the Uvo straw. It's basically make these straws that are like warm up tools and vocal technique tools, but also they're basically like kind of vibe and jewelry.
Right.
You feel fine like wearing it and taking it with you, but then also it's always right there.
Nice.
So I like their stuff. There are like some teas and stuff that I like, but generally there's not a lot out there that mechanically helps the voice.
Totally.
But I will say Vocal Mist, something that we're excited about this year, is expanding our product line a little bit
Nice.
to include a couple of other things that we think are actually helpful for people.
That's awesome.
So the first thing on that list is here in like, I want to say like 2 to 3 months, we're selling a honey product.
Cool.
That is, it's going to be called Golden Tone Honey.
Ooh, I like it.
Wait. But what it is it's a Manuka honey, which is this New Zealand-based honey where it's got a lot of medicinal properties to it, anti-inflammatory properties, and a lot of singers swear by it.
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of expanding what we offer for things that will for things that we feel confident will actually help people, whether they think it's going to help or not, that's one that we're excited to start bringing to the market soon.
I love the Manuka honey. I get like the little boxes of like the snap packs. Have you seen those? They're like the single, I carry those with me everywhere.
So check this out. So we're working with a company. We actually figured out, I guess because most people, when they're eating it, they'll either get the big jar and they'll take like a little spoonful at a time, or they'll have the little snap packs and suck it through. So what ours is it's little single serving spoons, like recyclable spoons. And so you have a box of like 15 or so.
Right.
So you're able to pull it out and then you have
Just
like a single serving, and you can make it kind of a daily thing.
Nice.
Moderate how it works for you because you're taking the same amount every time.
That's awesome. I'm a big fan as well of like journaling of what you... I always like to tell people to focus on what they did that made their voice feel excellent, and if they're having a really great singing day, as opposed to dwelling on like, why was my voice crappy today? I'm like, when you have a really great singing day, what did you do that day? What did you eat the day before? Like, how much sleep did you get? How much stress are you under? Like, I'm always saying, if you're having a great singing day, reverse engineer what did you do to get there? That could be an external factor. So I love all of these things because I'm always trying to help singers have, like you say, that toolkit, and just to always add something that whenever, if they're stuck, and then of course when the stress comes in, if you're on a tour and your voice isn't feeling perfect, then your brain goes down the rabbit hole of everything going wrong, and then your voice starts to tense up. It's just not fun. So when you have all of these tools in your toolkit, it's just so great. So I on behalf of all of the singers but no, seriously, thank you so much for taking something that worked for you and sharing it and making it accessible to everyone, because hearing really amazing things, and I don't usually do sort of product endorsement type things on my podcast, because firstly, like there's a lot of weird stuff out there and some strange people, but yeah, like you said, the singing straws, I love all of that kind of stuff because it's backed by science and it all makes sense. So I really wanted to chat with you because like I said, I love the Facebook group that you've started. It's a really cool, genuine space that focuses on voice health and seems to be very caring and coming from a space that, just like myself, it's like taking care of the voice is the priority. So
well, thank you for saying so. Yeah. And if so this Facebook group that you're referring to, so it's called Vocal Care Central, right? And it is, while the invite to this group went out primarily to Vocal Mist users, because those are the emails that I have, it's not a Vocal Mist like specific group. Like, of course we're going to talk about Vocal Mist every now and then, but it is open for anybody who's a singer that wants to join and ask questions about what their process is or where they are in their journey. It's also a closed group, like it's a private group. So if you want, you can post a recording and you can like kind of interact with people without being quite as, camera shy about putting something vulnerable out on the open internet.
Yeah, it already has a really nice vibe of like really supportive, cool people. So good job with that, because
good.
The internet can be a very unique space.
I'm lucky to have met, doing Vocal Mist and also working as a singer. I've met a handful. Well, I've met plenty of really great people, but a handful of people that are like very great singer. They're great singers and very educated, and academic and kind. And a couple of them have been willing to step in as moderators on the group and kind of like create a kind of consistent supply of vocal tips and tricks, and let's share your journey and let's interact, just kind of helping people along.
I love it. I love it so much. Aaron, thank you so much. You've had a very busy couple of weeks with your new baby. And so thank you so much for taking time to chat with me. And I'll put links, if it's okay, I'll put a link to that Facebook group in the show notes and
Yes,
obviously
absolutely.
links to your product and all that stuff. So yeah, thank you so much for joining me. I'm really excited to share your story and talk a little bit about a product that I truly believe in. So yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you. It has been a pleasure. Thanks you for having me on the podcast. Do we have to end the podcast with like rock your voice, or is there like a tagline?
I like that. I don't, but I like that.
All right. On the count of 3, here we go together.
Okay.
Ready? 3, 2, 1. Rock your voice. There we go.
I love it. Awesome. Thank you so much,
All right.
Aaron. Have a great day.
You too, my friend.
Take care. Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to today's show. I really hope you enjoyed it. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe. And if you do leave a review, it's really useful to help others discover the show. You can also check out the weekly vocal workout over on Patreon. I'll leave the links in the show notes, where you can access weekly vocal training from yours truly and totally rock your voice. Thanks again for listening. Check out Rocket Vocal Studios on social and on the web, and I look forward to seeing you again next time.